I'm driving into Seattle right now, which I'm very excited about. Not necessarily because of Seattle, although I am excited to see the city. What I'm more excited about are the two people that I'm going to see. I'm going to be seeing two creative-minded people who I look up to very much. I'll be seeing Ivy and David. Both of these two people, I think, are going to have really good perspectives on what it means to be a creative person, and I guess how to keep the creativity alive, you know? Ivy is someone who I met in a summer acting program I did, summer of 2019. I only had a couple of classes with her, and we ran in slightly different social circles, so I didn't know her that well. But there's certain people who you meet who they have this certain presence and aura about themselves where you look at them and you're like, okay, you're gonna do something incredible. And she had that. She has that. And I reached out to her just asking, like, what is there to do in the city? And she was like, hey, you want to stay with me and my family? So that's happening. Really grateful for it. And I'm excited to get to know her better. I wished I had during that program. It would be nice to have the opportunity now. Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm going to eat that.
Get rid of the box.
Get rid of the box.
It's nice to hold it.
Do you want to hold the box?
No, the mic.
Oh, the mic. Yeah.
I need the box for emotional
Need the box
support.
for support. Yeah. I guess to start, give me who are you? What do you do? What got you to this point?
My name's Ivy.
Okay.
I am a actor, writer, director, singer, dog mom, Seattleite,
All that.
artist, person,
Yeah.
living on Earth.
Perfect. Love it.
That is me.
That is a good, quick elevator pitch.
That is my elevator pitch. That is.
Yeah. I guess jumping right into the heaviness of it. Why create? Why be an artist? Why be an actor, a musician, all that? Like,
Yeah.
What led you to think that was the thing you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think I was always sort of naturally inclined in the arts versus like my brother, who's much more like math and science based.
Yeah.
And so that was just sort of my skill set. So I didn't really ever consider like there's many careers that I didn't really consider a possibility for myself, both because I wasn't interested in them and I also just wasn't skilled in those things. And the arts have always been something I've gravitated towards. I did dance. Growing up, I sang a lot, did theater, and then sort of found my way into film. But yeah, I was kind of just always sort of the natural progression of things. And sort of when deciding to go to school or not, or what to study, I didn't really know what else. Like there's never really been anything else. So
yeah, it just
just has
it
always,
just is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Like I've asked stuff similar to that to other people in the past, and it just I feel like when you know, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess tangential, but also related to that. You've done a lot of like creating your own stuff too. Like you have one song out now, another one coming out soon.
Yes.
You also created your own music video. You created your own, short film.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
Where does the drive to do that come from instead of waiting for someone to,
Yeah.
I know you're auditioning and stuff as well, and that's amazing. No, you're getting a lot from that as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
She's fantastic.
Well, everything's like it comes in waves, and it also, it's just like sporadic. There's sometimes it feels like I have a lot going on, and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
just doing as much as I can.
Yeah.
But in terms of like finding the inspiration to do my own work, I think as much as I am an appreciator of art, like every time I go to the movies or something, as much as I'm like enjoying viewing it, I'm also like, I want to be doing that. Like I'm always trying to like figure out how they did stuff, or like if it's a movie I really like, I like it because I like, oh, that would be so fun to do. And same with like sort of painting or drawing, or like if I go to an art museum, I get so inspired by it and I love looking at other people's art, but it's also like I like it because it inspires me to do my like thing. Like as much as I am an
Yeah.
appreciator of art, I'm also like I appreciate it because it like
It inspires
it
you. It
fuels
gives
my
you like,
creativity.
oh,
Yeah,
here's
yeah,
this
yeah,
thing and that I could make something out of that, or it gives
totally.
me idea to,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's good to be able to do things and not wait and just be like, I want to create, so I'm going to
yeah,
create. I'm not going
yeah.
to wait for,
And you just learn from those experiences too. Like
yeah,
nothing I've ever created is perfect by any means because I don't think perfection exists, but also because
true.
they're learning. Like there's a million mistakes in everything I've done because I'm learning, and each time there's less mistakes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's the goal.
Hopefully.
That's the
Yeah.
goal.
And, even if, like, that's how you learn is you make
Right.
mistakes and you learn and
Exactly.
you grow
Yeah.
and you fail and, but also from what I understand, I don't think anything you've done has been anything close to a failure. Like,
Well, I mean, that's not true, but you should see some of
I'll
my,
be the judge of that when I watch.
my audition tapes. There's some bad ones. There's
Okay.
always bad ones.
We all have bad ones.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest things you have learned just from all of what have you learned /
Yeah.
what's a piece of advice you would give?
I think the biggest takeaway just coming out of the most recent projects I've done is like for me, I'm learning like the balance of how much planning I have to do to get the end result product that I envision, and also the balance between that and then being okay with the like in post-production there being shifts in sort of the original vision, and sometimes that's okay, but then sometimes it's also like, oh no, okay, I wish I would have done this different, so we didn't have to make that adjustment.
Yeah.
And other than that, like just learning a lot about like communicating, I think, with people in an effective way, because that's the biggest thing too. I think when things get missed, it's because the way that I'm communicating as the director in these 2 directorial roles that I've had has not been good enough communication, and so that like sort of falls back on me. So just like learning lots of things of how I can do things better, and be better on set. And was there a part 2 to that question?
No, that was
okay.
That was it. That was
okay.
good. Yeah, and I mean, figuring out how to communicate effectively and do that is a really important thing that I think can get looked over a lot. So the fact that you're being self-aware about that is really good, and trying.
I mean, there's always better ways to do things. So
yeah, no, that's great. And also what you said about allowing the vision to shift a little bit, but also knowing like, no, I want this part to stay is also really important and good. Like what. I don't know where I was going to go with that. I don't know what that question was. Yeah, I think that's everything that I have to ask. I mean, is there anything else you want to like just shout out? It can be also not film related, just like anything.
Anything. Yeah. I don't think I answered the piece of advice question. I think that's the one I missed. Okay. Which I don't know if I have good advice, but I think it would be, well, not to be afraid of making mistakes, which is sort of also advice for myself because I'm also very afraid of making mistakes. But I think the best learning, like you kind of said, comes from mistakes. And what else?
It's better to make mistakes than to not do anything.
Right. Yeah. And I think just to be persistent, like specifically speaking about like the acting and film side of things, it's not easy for anyone, and just like to stick with it. And I don't know. If it's gonna be your own journey no matter what it is. So like just trying to enjoy it as much as possible.
Yeah. And knowing that like you said at the very beginning, like it's something that's just in your heart, and you're like if you know it's what you want to do, like why do anything else? Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I think there should be other things too, but just sort of holding on to that creativity and that art form and doing it as much as you can, but also like experiencing life and living life and getting
it's very important.
Getting experiences and things and meeting people because that's what influences your work, is
it fuels it.
And who you are as a person too. So
which is very important.
Right.
You want to be a good person to create good art. So
yeah, totally. I think that's it.
Okay.
I don't know if I have anything else.
High five.
Sweet.
We did it. David, I'm very excited to see. David was my vocal coach, and he was also the composer and lyricist. He wrote the music for a couple musicals, one of which is called Ranked, which I was in one of the workshop productions of. And I think that show is destined for Broadway. Knock on wood. Nah, because the back of my phone case is wood. Yeah, he's led a really cool life so far, and he's pursued music really well from my perspective, at least. So, you know, it'll be really, really cool to from him about like what his journey's been like, and I guess how he's kept the music alive. Fantastic. Okay. Hi.
Hi, Ben. What's
Hi.
going on here?
I guess okay. This is my vlog. I don't know. I'm figuring it out.
Okay.
I guess to start off, elevator pitch on you. Who are you? What do you do? How do we know each other? How did you get to this point from where you were?
Okay, cool. I'm David Taylor Gomes.
Yeah.
I'm a songwriter, composer. I work in musical theater. I've also done film and pop. And I met you because I cast you in a developmental production of a musical I wrote called Ranked at UC Davis. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how we know each other.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Which thank you for casting me in that, by the way.
Yeah,
It was
easy to do.
genuinely phenomenal experience. I guess the first question is what kind of, you had you were initially pursuing like being a singer, right? Yeah,
I mean,
more or
I don't
less.
know.
I know you're in American Idol.
Yes, I did do American
Yeah.
Idol in season 11, but I was 19,
Yeah.
right? I was like a little baby. And so I think like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the question is there. I was initially, I've been a singer my whole life,
Yeah.
but I think songwriting, the act of creating music is so much more exciting than the act of performing music to me.
Okay.
I think like it's just like you have so much more control and it's less about how perfect you are. And I feel like singing, so much of it is like, did I nail this performance? Did I sing that note perfectly? Did I like it can become so like overwhelming from a technical perspective. And so what I like about songwriting or music arranging or things like that is that it's just like you get to you're like the god, if you will, of the art.
The God, great.
Yeah, you get to connect with the muses and you get
Yeah.
to like see what inspires you and you get to know the rules and then you get to break them and you get to have a voice. You get to say something. So I
Yeah.
like that.
What made you realize that was kind of the path you wanted to take, if that makes sense? I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I don't know what made me realize it. I feel like I've been writing songs from such an early age. So like the first time I wrote a legitimate piece of music that like I played it the same way every time on piano and I wrote it, I was a third grader. And that was because my piano teacher saw some creative spark in me and was like, you can do this. Let me teach you how to write songs. And so it's really hard for me to remember what it felt like before I was writing songs because I just got started so young.
It's been so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same is true with playing piano because my first piano lesson was when I was 4. So I have zero memory of what it is to not play piano. I don't know what that version of myself was because it was only the first 4 years of my life. And so I think like, I don't know that it was like so much of a decision. Like I'd been doing it the whole time, but I think that the decision to like commit to it for a career, I was like 22 or something. I was working as a visual merchandiser for Banana Republic and I just hated it. Like I didn't mind the work I was doing, but I hated that it had to happen at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. before the store opened. And I just was not feeling very fulfilled by it. And so I just like abruptly quit that job, much to my husband's like concern.
Yeah.
He was like, oh my God. And I became a Starbucks barista while I kind of like regrouped. And then I just kind of like found a home in theater. And I think it's because there is such a need for musicians in musical theater. Like the music industry is really, really oversaturated, but I think musicians within the theater industry is not. So I was just able to find work. Like if you're a piano player who's willing to play for musical theater, you're going to find a job as long as you can play piano well enough.
That's the important part.
Yeah, you have to be able to do it well. So I think it's just sort of like one thing led to the next. So I don't know that it was like a sudden decision or like
It was more like lifelong and like kind of like you were.
Yeah, I just kept doing things. And there's so much like team building and community in theater. And I really liked that aspect of it. I liked that that it's like not a solo pursuit. And playing piano is a lot of times a solo pursuit. You practice by yourself. If you're a concert pianist, you're kind of like all on your own a lot of the time. And theater is so collective. And so that's why I've kind of found myself in that part of the industry.
Yeah, having a community is very important, and like the difference between having people and not people can make the worlds of difference, not only like just with everything.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, like, you're part of my community. You're here traveling the globe or whatever. And it's fun to be like, oh my God, you're here in Seattle. Let's get together. Let's hang out. Like, that is because of theater. And like, theater gives you so many of those kinds of relationships with people. And so, yeah, that's like, and it feeds your life and your soul and your just like all of the stuff that money can't buy. So,
yeah, art, theater, art, whatever is like, it gives. It gives.
Yeah, especially like God, Dust a Bullet, right? Because when I was
Yeah.
doing visual merchandising,
Which is very different than like
but also like brick and mortar retail stores are like really struggling. So it's like I think I quit that job at the right time. Like it kind of worked out. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah. No, that's. I mean, I think it worked out for you based on where you're at so far. Yeah.
we'll see.
What, you have ranked, and you also have other projects that you're working on. Where does creating your own stuff, like writing and all of that, what am I asking? How do you find value from that, I guess?
How do I find value from creating? You mean like personally? Like what does it do?
Yeah. Or like whether personally or interpersonally or whatever, like what, yeah.
Well, we talked about like how the theater community in general is a community.
Yeah.
And I think like when you write something new, you have the ability to give people something. They get to be a part of it. I feel like when you're putting up a show that's pre-existing, like let's say you're gonna put on like, I don't know, South Pacific or something, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone already knows what that is and they're expecting to sort of see what that is.
Yeah.
But when you write something new or when you write a new song, there's so much freedom in what it gets to be because you don't have to meet any particular standard of what is. And so even with like the new pieces I'm developing right now, it's so great to be able to say to a singer, hey, if this feels better to your voice in a different key, let's put it in a different key. If this melody wants to sit in your voice slightly differently, let's alter the melody. If this lyric feels weird coming out of your mouth, let's write a new lyric, right? Like there's just so much freedom in that. And like personally for me, it's just like knowing that like you get to, everything I write is for the most part comes from like a really personal place. Like even if I'm writing for different characters for a show, like I'm not going to be investing time and energy into a character who I don't relate to or who I don't like think their story really matters. And so being able to like say, hey, this thing really, really matters to me. And then have like a bunch of other people be like, oh my God, it matters to me too. Like, I don't know how you get to achieve that in a non-creative field. And so there's just something so amazing about like the unifying power of art and the unifying power of songwriting specifically, people getting to see themselves in something.
Yeah. Being able to create something that like people can really like, oh, this is something that like I identify with, and knowing that you made that and you gave that effect.
Yeah. I think about all the songs I listened to when I was a teenager, right? Like all the songs where I'm like, this song matters so much to me, like as a 16-year-old or whatever. Like this song put into words and emotion through the music, something that I felt but I didn't know how to articulate, and getting to be a part of that, getting to articulate those things, getting to say things like I don't know, I would never do anything else because it's so fulfilling and so satisfying to do that it's like there's I have yet to find something more fulfilling. So
at the end of the day, that's like kind of what matters most, is finding something that gives you fulfillment, right?
Why else are we alive?
Yeah
Because we're all gonna die someday, so like you might as well do things that like improve your life and the lives of the people around you.
Yeah if it's giving you fulfillment, and if it's get that in there so you know. No, like you said, I can't say it better. Why else?
Why else are we alive? I don't know.
Okay, last question, very broad. One piece of advice for creatives who are trying to find their way and maybe are still figuring it out. Me.
I was gonna be like, one piece of advice for Ben.
For Ben.
Oh God, one piece of advice.
You can do a couple of like.
You know, I'm gonna say some advice. I didn't think this up. This is
Fine.
advice that was given to me. I think first off, find mentors in your life. So I feel like I'm one of your mentors. So
You are.
I'm
I would come out of
grateful.
that. That's part of why I wanted you
Yeah.
on this, is because like you are a mentor, and like, you know, it's a journey of meeting all the people who have had a really positive impact on me.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, thank you. But I feel like the mentors that I have in my life, I think there's just something so important about mentorship, and just like the if something really impacted me, all I want to do is share it with other people and be like, oh my God, this impacted me. This helped my life get better. My life is intrinsically better because of this thing that I'm applying to my life, whether it be like a thought process or a daily practice or whatever. And so one of the things that really, really helped me like level up, so to speak, is I had a mentor. I mean, he's still my mentor, like a friend, Greg Coffin, who's a composer, and he lived in Sacramento, surprisingly, but never worked there. Like he was like leaving town to go do shows. But one of the things that he said to me was like, at the end of every year of your life, kind of look at what you're doing professionally and find what are the things that are like the bottom 10%. And the bottom 10% meaning like things that you're like, that you're regretful that you agreed to do, or like, you know, what is the thing that you guilted yourself into doing instead of seeking out, right? And then just like stop doing those things, because that's the only way you're going to make room for a new top 10%. And then 10 years later, everything will have leveled up, right?
But you're getting rid of the stuff that's, you know, you're not happy with doing, and you're allowing room for the stuff that's good.
Yeah, and then acknowledging the fact that those things might have brought you joy once, and that's okay. And like, and like, we should be evolving and we should be growing as artists. And so like, for me, like, I think a really big step that was right when I was joining Actors Equity, and I was so grateful for that, because Actors Equity doesn't let you do non-equity theater. Like, you have to do union theater. And I was like, oh, good, a really easy way to say no to people. But like, at the same time, it was like, community theater isn't bad, but it's like, you need to like really love the thing you're doing, because if you're not getting paid to do it, it needs to really fulfill you. So I think that was like really solid advice. And I think that's, you can apply to anyone, whether or not you're creative or not. But if you have the power to remove the bottom 10% every year, do it. Get rid of that bottom 10%. And then, yeah, like I said, 10 years later, boom, now you're 100% improved.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
That's incredibly good advice. Thank you for
I didn't
that.
think it up. I'm just passing it along. And I doubt Greg did either. Like, so.
I mean, that's the way that mentors go, is you pass it on one to the next, and, you know, we all figure it out. Like, if you a little bit of improvement every day, like, I
think there's also power in someone else telling you're allowed to do something. Like, you're allowed to say no to that thing. I think it's really trendy right now on social media to be like, cut out toxicity. But it's like, also like, sure, true.
Yeah.
But also, you can say no to something that isn't toxic. Like, you can say no to something you don't want to do. Like, it doesn't have to be toxic for you to say no to it.
Yeah.
And then like, B, everything that makes you feel bad isn't toxic. So like, maybe there's some toxicity in ourselves that we need to be like, oh, maybe I feel bad doing this because I am aware of my own toxicity and I need to, you know. So I think there's like so I think like digging into this idea of like, what's getting me where I want to be, what is, so I don't know, there's so much to talk about in this bottom 10% thing. Like, what does that even mean? But that's for you to think about and ponder about. So
and at the end of the day, just knowing it's okay to get rid of the 10% as well. Like,
or else you're just gonna stagnate your whole life. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate this. Like, you've meant a lot to me. I know you're only my coach for like 6 months itch, but
it was
like
a pivotal moment. You were transitioning.
Truly,
you were transitioning in life. A bug is on me. Okay.
Love bugs. But like, thank you for everything. Thank you for this. You're fantastic. Love you, man.
Oh, I love you too. Give me a hug.
Okay. Document hugs.
Also, you should turn the camera and show. And
show
what we're looking
we'll
at.
do it now. This is the vibe.
Lake
Beautiful.
Washington.
Lake Washington. Zoom in. So
look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's blocked by a tree, but it's pretty.
It's still pretty. Yeah.
Seattle was incredible. Not because of Seattle, although that was great, I loved Seattle for being Seattle, but it was really great to see both Ivy and David. Why create? Why for me? What's my answer to the question? I think Ranked, which is the musical that David wrote the music for, had a profound impact on me. And if he hadn't put the work in, if he hadn't made that happen, like, I would be a different person. I'd be probably a worse person. His art had a profoundly positive impact on me. And yeah, you know, maybe some of the stuff that I've created is imperfect, but that's part of the process. That's part of what creativity and art is. You know, like Ivy said, perfection isn't really a thing. You know, you make things that are imperfect and you learn from that. You learn from the mistakes you made and you learn from the failures that you went through. But that's what makes you improve. That's what makes you better. It matters because it allows not only for you to try and help the world grow, but it also allows for you to grow within. Through that creating, through that making of art, you are positively impacting someone. Whether it be you or someone else, you're positively impacting someone, and that matters. I don't know, I guess there was a part of me that was worried that my creativity was meaningless, if that makes sense. That, you know, I would keep going on and on and on, creating, hoping that it would touch someone in a certain way, but that's kind of the name of the game, is you just keep creating, knowing that it will. Ivy and David, if you're watching this, thank you for being incredible people, for being incredible artists. It's had a positive impact on me. So, thanks for being awesome. Thanks for watching. Thank you, David and Ivy. Keep creating. See you in the next episode. Okay. But now it's time for Ben to sleep. Hey, it's the end of the video and you made it. I guess that's just how I'm going to start all of these. Although I think I'm going to change it to episode because I might be making these into a podcast, like these longer speaky ones. If you're listening to this and it's on a podcast, I guess I did it. So good job. I've been talking about that for like months at this point. This is not relevant to the end of the episode thing. The thing that I wanted to say is I have an ask and a task. My ask is that if you enjoyed the episode, either leave a comment or send me a message. It'd mean a lot. Don't have to, but that's my ask. My task is to create something, anything. You can draw a picture. You can like write a poem. You can make a video. You can do whatever, but do some small act of creativity today. That is my task for you to do. That's all. I think I'm going to try and come up with like a cool little like outro saying thing, because I don't want to just be like bye, but I don't know like what else to do. So hopefully I'll have one at the next one. But for now, peace out, my dudes. Nope, didn't like that. Okay, bye. I'll have a better one. I